Hello and welcome. Really pleased to be here with Maggie from Musical Moments. This is a great chance to kind of catch up with someone who runs a franchise business, unpick a little bit about their journey, and sort of get to know them a bit more and see if it's the right franchise for you. What I love about Musical Moments is every time you share photos on social media, there's such joy in the faces of the people that you work with. And it's different as well, that you're one of the only franchises that we've got that work with adults, not just with children. And that to me is something really special, and also run by a former teacher. You spent 6 years, didn't you, teaching in mainstream and in special education needs before you then took on this role. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, honestly, my pleasure. I do love what you're doing. It warms the heart, I think, is the best way to put it. Tell us, to start with, before we go into Musical Moments, tell us about your background in teaching. How did you get into teaching, and where did you teach? All of that sort of stuff.
So I was a music graduate and left having done a great degree, lots of performing and playing. And sort of did like what a lot of graduates do, and thought, I don't really know what I'm going to do now. So I worked as a TA and a cover supervisor for a year, and somehow that didn't put me off. And I went and did a PGCE. So I worked in mainstream secondary music teaching for 3 or 4 years. And then I just was a bit frustrated by the system in mainstream. The arts for a while now, and hopefully things are maybe going to change now. But the arts were just, we were the shop window for the school. They wanted a lovely choir to sing on open evening and a concert, but other than that, there was no time given to or value put on our subjects. And I was really frustrated by that. So I moved into special ed, which actually, I know this is all about leaving teaching, but for anybody that is in a sort of creative arts teacher and sort of not ready to give up on teaching, but looking for something different, I did find that in special ed, sort of the arts were valued more, like they could see the value of them a little bit more. And I really enjoyed that. I worked in an SEMH provision for a couple of years, which was really challenging. But again, music was something that got those kids through the door, and it allowed them to kind of express themselves in a way that maybe they just weren't able to otherwise. And so I did love that. But like lots of people, I had my children, and after a good break on maternity leave, I'd just seen the real world. I'd kind of been in education my whole life. I'd gone straight from school to uni, back into a school as a TA, to my PGCE. I'd never really done normal life. And I had this year off where I got to go and do my food shop on a Wednesday morning when it was quiet. And I just thought I just couldn't face kind of going back to that grind, this sort of relentlessness that is teaching, the constantly counting down to half term. And I just thought, particularly in the SEMH provision, you give so much of yourself to those kids because they need it. And I just couldn't see how I'd ever balance being the teacher that I wanted to be and being the mum that I wanted to be. And I know that's a familiar story for a lot of people looking to leave teaching. There's an article in the Times this week actually about women in their 30s leaving en masse because it's just not flexible around family. And as a music teacher, I really had in my mind, I love all the concerts and assemblies and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I'm going to miss all these for my own child. So that was a big sort of push factor for me to leave teaching. But I love my subject. I love music. And I love the way it sort of brings people together, and even mainstream secondary and special schools. Music is just such a leveler for people. Everyone can come in and join in, and it'd be a really happy place. So I didn't want to lose working within my subject. I knew I couldn't sit in an office all day because that's just not for me. And I didn't want to waste my skills. I was sort of a reluctant leaver of teaching, really. And I still feel, how long I've been out now? Six years I've been out of teaching now. And people say, well, what do you do? And I still feel like I say, well, I was a teacher. And I'm only just starting to kind of get past that. Because I love teaching, really. I love the kids. I just didn't like what it did to our life and how it fit round. So that was kind of why I left. But yeah, I did some mainstream, some special ed. And then had a little family. I've got 2 little boys at home. Harry is 6. He's about to go into year 1 next year. And then my youngest, Rupert, is only 3. So he's still in nursery. So it's a bit of a juggle at the moment. But yeah, I left teaching successfully.
I mean, what a journey. Yeah. Really nice to hear that journey, I think. And just, put ourselves in that position, because, we're all facing this kind of challenge, and I think that's one of the reasons set up the business in the first place, because it isn't flexible, is it? There are some schools out there that are working flexibly, and I read the other day there was a school trust in Cambridge, and they're working on sort of later start times and earlier finishes for teachers, just so they can do that pick up and drop off. But yeah, I know it was an absolute nightmare dropping 3 kids in 3 different places and having to be at school for 8:20 to start at 8:30. Hadn't read any of my emails and just sort of looked.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're frozen, Katie. But yeah, it is super stressful. Or it would have been, but I haven't had that stress because I left.
Sorry.
That's okay. Are you back? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely fine. I'm imagining, because it's the school holidays, that my children are using devices that's sucking the internet away from me.
That's all right. It's no problem.
So, yeah, I do. If I stutter, then you will not. You'll be fine. So don't worry about it. But, really love to hear a bit more about musical moments.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was looking to leave teaching, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, because I wanted to use the skills that I built, and I enjoyed teaching. I came across Musical Moments. So Musical Moments isn't something that I started. I am the franchisor and I own the company now, but I joined as a franchisee. So I bought a franchise in York. And I came across it. It was an ex-colleague of mine was running sessions in Bradford, and I saw it on his Facebook. I thought, oh, that looks lovely. I wonder how that works. And at that point, I didn't even know what franchise was. Like, I certainly wasn't looking for something where I had to pay for the privilege of working or starting a business. I had no idea. But it just looked so rewarding. And so I joined as a franchisee back in 2019. So what Musical Moments is, we're a activity provider ultimately for care homes and community groups. So we go in and deliver interactive music sessions to adult groups living with dementia or sort of really cognitive disabilities are what we're focusing on. So maybe it might be a stroke recovery group, or dementias are our kind of big target group. But lots of community groups, Age UK and all those big charities run like coffee mornings where they're kind of trying to combat loneliness and social isolation, and we might go in and do sessions for them. But our big target group are the care homes, and to actually go in and provide some really meaningful activity that's going to actually stimulate the residents, get them moving, mentally stimulate them, engage them, get everybody singing. And it's proper lovely. Like quite a lot of the time I think, God, I can't believe this is my actual job. And I don't think I thought that very often in the classroom. So, you go in and really our primary purpose is to cheer people up. We're using music for all the best bits of music, like to go in and put a smile on people's faces and get them singing and get them moving. And yeah, so I joined as a franchisee. There's an amazing lady called Becky Mackin now, and she set Musical Moments up back in 2011 when her own nana had dementia, and she started going in and doing some music with her. And then the care home said, oh, this is lovely. Like, could you come in next week as well? And it sort of grew from there. So then she franchised the business and I joined as a franchisee. And then unfortunately, COVID hit. So I joined 2019 and had like a real thriving business by the start of 2020, and was thinking, yes, this is the best thing I've ever done. And then COVID hit. And obviously at that point, our primary sort of client group were just care homes, and they just closed their doors. Now I rode that out by being on maternity leave again. So that sort of worked okay for me. And my kids were little, so I needed to be at home. But obviously a lot of the rest of the team found other jobs, and even our founder Becky, who had put her heart into this business, just moved on. She had to find other work, and I sort of started setting up my area again, and getting sessions going. And ultimately she phoned me and sort of said, you know, I'm not going to start again. We either let the business go, or do you want to take it on? And there was definitely an argument for letting musical moments go. And I could have set something up myself and called it Maggie's Music, Sing with Maggie or something. And, you know, called myself a founder or whatever. But that just didn't feel like there was enough integrity to that. I loved what Becky had made. And I just loved everything about it. I loved what she'd given me, because I'd never run a business before. And now I had this successful business, and you know, I'd learned so much from her, and I loved what she'd created, the content. So I made the decision to buy her out and sort of take it on and rebuild it. So at that point, we had the start of 2022, really, there were 3 of us doing sessions, and we're back up to a team of 15 now. So so it's really grown, and hopefully we'll keep growing more. I've probably gone a bit off what you asked me then, but that's kind of my journey from teaching. I was a franchisee, so I'm certainly happy to talk about that process. And then now I've become the franchisor, and I love it. It's great.
I think it, you know, again, it's just absolutely incredible what you're saying, and that time where it was so difficult for everyone, but to maintain that positive attitude and know that you could build this back up again from literally from scratch, because you believed in what you're doing. And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? If you have that passion and that belief and those values, that those kind of all align, why would you throw that away when something gets difficult? And
and also I think, you know, running a business, even a franchise business, is not, you know, it's not easy. No business is easy to run. Like, you've got to have some resilience and a bit of determination to make it work. You know, it's that old, you know, the more you put in, the more you get out. And that is so true of a business that you run. But if you really care about what you do, you know, we go into these care homes, and quite often I'll walk into the room and it'll be pretty quiet. Sometimes on the dementia units, you know, people might be a bit agitated or wandering around, and you feel a bit like the Pied Piper. You start this music session, and people sort of are drawn in, and they come, and then they start smiling, they're singing, and they start interacting together. And you know, and by the end of the session, you can leave and they'll be still singing. They'll be talking to each other, or they'll be. My sort of favourite thing about these sessions really is that they're not just for the residents in the room. They're really they are for the residents in the room, but they're also for their relatives or the carers that are working with them, because dementia is the cruelest of diseases, and it is challenging looking after a loved one or just someone in your care with dementia. And if we can provide, we're called musical moments, you know, if we can provide these moments of joy for these people together, that maybe there's no pressure on conversation, they can wave a scarf together, or they can sing together, or they can just dance together. You know, that is really lovely, and that makes such a difference to the relatives' day or to the carers' day, and kind of helps them keep that connection and that bond through something that isn't dependent on being able to speak, because a lot of our residents, you know, have lost their ability to speak, but they can still sing, which is amazing. You know, so wherever they are on their journey, or whatever their sort of impairment is, music is just so accessible for everybody. Yeah, it's just really, it's lovely when you go in and you, it's sort of not, I don't want to say miserable, but it's a bit quiet and a bit down, and you think, oh, I don't really want to sit in here. And then you leave and everyone's having a lovely time and they're all chatting, and you just think, yeah, this is great, and I've been paid to do it. So that's a bonus.
Do you find as well with the music, it sort of evokes something in the residents, like particular songs from like maybe their
absolutely youth? So just to talk a bit more about our session, I know we're going to focus on adults and things, but our session, so everyone in our team is a musician. Not everybody has a music degree, but everybody is a competent performer. And we've got lots of ex-teachers. I mean, more than half the team are ex-teachers, because the skills will transfer perfectly. And we'll talk about that when we talk about working with adults. But the sessions are really designed to kind of use music for all its best bits. So when a good song comes on and you start like dancing, or a toe starts tapping, if people are going to start moving, let's make that movement as beneficial for them as possible. So I've got an adaptive movement specialist on the team as a consultant who's gone through all the exercises we encourage, and to make sure they're going to be as physically beneficial for the residents as they can be. So they're maybe going to help improve balance or reduce falls or keep the fine motor skills going, or the gross motor skills if that's what they need. So we kind of get that movement going. And then I've also got a music therapist on the team. We are not music therapists, we're community musicians. But we have a music therapist who's kind of been through our session plans with us and kind of taught us through like kind of the workings of dementia in the brain and how music actually interacts with all of that, and done some training for the whole team on that and gone through our sessions so we can get the absolute most out of every song that we do. And the sessions are really designed for everyone in the room. So there's such a range of music. I mean, you know, you go into a care home and I mean, there might be a lady who's 104 sat dancing, but there might also be someone with early onset Alzheimer's that's maybe only 60. You know, there's a 40-year span there for music. So we really cover everything from like 50s up to present day music really, and world music and some classical and musicals, and there's something in there for everyone so that everyone can kind of get involved and enjoy parts of the session. I've totally forgotten what you asked me.
Yeah, I think just that evoking those memories, and I think that's nice that you spanned like lots of different genres with the music as well, because as a creative person, you're not going to want to just do wartime songs.
Songs do. Like we had, there was one gentleman who had really not. This was not long ago. We did a St. Patrick's Day session, and he sort of, he'd tap his foot, and he wasn't massively engaged in what we're doing. And I'm a brass player, and I played Danny Boy, London Derriere on my euphonium, and he just stood up and he sung it like fully. It was amazing, and I'd never really heard him speak. And it was just magic, and that song obviously meant a lot to him. And we use a lot of reminiscence activities as part of the session. So maybe we'll play like a theme tune from a TV show, you know, like all those old 70s sitcoms come on. And we had an amazing moment with this lady who we played the theme tune from Only Fools and Horses, and she was sat with her partner, who she just couldn't quite place who he was anymore. And this theme tune came on, and I showed them a picture of Del Boy, and she went, Del Boy, he was always scheming. And it all just came back from this one song, and she sort of grounded where she was. And yeah, I just think music's so amazing for that.
It's just beautiful, isn't it? How do you, like, you know, from a professional point of view, how do you not sort of stop and get caught up in that moment?
Well, I mean, those kind of moments, it depends. Sometimes you do. You want to, like, if someone gets up and down and really sings, like, God, we're going to let them, and we're going to enjoy that, and everyone's going to be part of that moment together. You know, and other times that lady that had kind of placed her partner, that's a moment that they need, and you need to step away from that and let them kind of bask in that while they can. And so there's a balance, but it is lovely. But that again, that's one of the skills you kind of bring from teaching. I always think our teachers make really good session leaders, because you don't allow yourself to just be drawn to those residents that are up at the front and dancing and really giving it everything. As a teacher, you're eyeballing that person in the back corner that's a bit quieter. And you know, there are lots of people that go into care homes and entertain, like they will stand at the front and they'll sing or they'll perform. And I'm not saying there isn't value in that, because there is, but we're trying to do something much more interactive and stimulating than that. So we barely ever really just stay at the front. We sort of set everybody off, and then we're in and amongst like you would be in a classroom, and we're trying to support those individuals that maybe need a bit of encouragement to do some movement, and they will, and then you turn around and they stop and you say, come on. And you know, then they'll do those movements with you, or they'll sing, and they just need that bit more support. And as a teacher, you're drawn to those people, and yes, that's a really useful skill.
Quite natural, isn't it?
And
so, talking about that, like from teaching children of all different age groups to then going teaching adults, working with adults, you're not teaching. Like what's that transition like? And how adaptable are your franchisees that you work with and the teachers that go in and deliver the sessions?
I think it's a lot easier than people think it's going to be. You know, we're used to standing up and presenting as a teacher. So from that point of view, it's not nerve-wracking at all. I think I find the kind of more advanced dementia groups and things easier as when I first started as a teacher, because cognitively, you know, they're not in the same place as what they would have been before. And you absolutely do not treat them like children. But, you know, that sort of big positive smile and being really encouraging and stuff, it just comes naturally as a teacher. And that's the perfect kind of skill. Yeah, I think you just have to watch your tone, really. You know, my pet peeve with any of our new starters is that, you know, we are working with adults and we're not going to patronize anybody, no matter where they are on their journey with dementia or any other disease. So we always talk to people like adults, but you just have a great time. I just, yeah, I honestly think you just sort of naturally, I think the skills you've got as a teacher, you just naturally take through, and it just works with the group. And also, like, the sessions that we've planned are so well structured, and the activities are so kind of well designed for you to deliver, that in itself makes it a lot easier, because, you know, you've got it all down what you're doing and how we're going to pitch it, and so that it isn't. And when we get a group where everybody's complete, you know, we go into community settings where everybody's perfectly compos mentis and they live on their own, and, you know, I'm going to throw a cuddly teddy at them. What's this for? And you know, in a dementia setting, somebody might catch that teddy, so that's the kind of gross motor skills we're working on, and they'll give it a cuddle and yada yada. Whereas when we're working with a more able group, you know, we're saying, right, this is just to get your shoulders moving a bit of hand-eye coordination, and then sort of make a joke about how it's linked to the song and that kind of. And it's just the way you deliver. You just change your tone a bit and keep things. If you explain to people why you're doing what you're doing, generally everyone's happy to join in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think even with children, they don't want to be spoken down to. And some of the best teachers that I've worked with have always spoken to children with respect as well. And then you get that respect back. And I mean, you've got a sort of captive audience there, haven't you, in a way, like you do in a classroom, a similar kind of setting. But I guess that sort of delivery of it is slightly different. You just make kind of tweaks.
Yeah, and also, I mean, care homes are our big client, and I always, be part of our training, we talk about this a lot more in depth, but we are going into their home. This is where they live now. And they might not necessarily be able to remove themselves from the room if they wanted to. So it's not like a classroom where everybody must make progress and everybody must do this, that, and the other. You know, we're going in, and with every intention, we will try and engage every single person in that room, and we will offer opportunity for every person in that room to join in. But if they don't want to, that's fine. Like, they don't have to, and no one's going to come and say to us, oh, you know, not everybody in the room made progress, because that's not what it's about. You know, we're taking in some joy, and, you know, people will get from that what they get from that. And if somebody doesn't want to join in or they want to leave, that's totally fine, because this is their space that we're coming into, and that's really important to kind of remember, especially if, you know, they're not able to say that for themselves or advocate that for themselves. You know, people have bad days, you know, with or without dementia. Like, so sometimes somebody doesn't want me coming in jazz hands. They just want a cup of tea in peace, and that's totally fine too. But most of the time we quite like winning those over if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And music is so powerful to be able to do that. With the sort of, you know, not lesson plans, but the session plans, and the structure of those, how much do your individual franchisees adapt those for particular, like, settings that they're in, or particular skills that they might have with music?
Yeah, so this is another reason that I love teachers, because you're just so good at adapting what we're doing. So we have quite detailed session plans they're actually slightly too long. So our sessions last about an hour, and they've got a real mix of movement activities, sensory activities. There's always some live performance in the middle where we play, and that gives everyone a bit of a breather, and it gives us a chance to be the musician again. And there's lots of sing-alongs. The sessions are deliberately slightly too long, so you can pick and choose from those activities for that group which one's going to work. And then we've going to say differentiate. I haven't used the word differentiate since I left teaching, but you can differentiate how you deliver those activities to different groups, how you pitch it, how you physically deliver it to the group. But the session plans are there. So if you wanted to, you know, you can literally, and as an ex-teacher, this is partly was one of the big pulls for me to join the franchise. You can take the session plan. It's got at the top all the things that you need, all the props. So I grab them in a bag. There's a link to a playlist at the bottom that's ready to go. You know, it can take you 5 minutes, look over the plan, pack your bag and go, and you're ready. If you want to, within the session, adapt more, we've got more than 200 activities in our kind of bank of stuff. You'll have a few in your head that, you know, like, oh, that will work really well with this group. And you can pull those out. And, you know, I'm never going to come out and say, well, that wasn't on the plan, because adapting to the group is better. Yeah. You know, if you can see that this group will engage more with a certain activity, or someone maybe asks for a specific song, like can we use one of our props or something with that song, or you know, that's lovely to see. So yeah, I think they've got a really good balance of the prep is done for you as a franchisee. Like, you don't have to worry about planning and whatever. And I do think our teachers, actually, the only where they're not better than our non-teaching colleagues is they overthink. Like, they take the session plan and they think, oh, well, you know, what else can I do? Anything. You don't need to. Stop. Like, you don't need to. Take it as it is, and then in the moment, if you think this will be better, then swap it in and out. But actually, the planning's done for you, but you have got the flexibility to change it a little bit as you go if you want. So yeah.
It's great, isn't it? Because it is so creative, and allowing them to be sort of creative and free with that is very different from the school setting. Like you said before, you know, there was a real crush on creative arts, and, you know, you're wheeled out, like you say, for everything that's going to be photographed or showcased for the school.
Oh, and then, you know, as a music teacher, that used to make me irate. Like, you know, the kids would learn to play something on the keyboard or whatever, and then we'd have to spend, rather than them actually playing the keyboard for an extra 10 minutes and actually making some progress, we'd have to write down in their book, oh, I did this, this, and this, and my next steps are X, Y. Oh, and it just used to drive me mad. Like, they'd have actually made more progress if we just played the flipping instrument.
Yeah.
Whereas in these sessions, you know, we are just doing all the bits you want to do for all the right reasons. So that is super
wonderful. Nice. And one thing that I do want to ask, because I know we spoke about this before we came live, but the balance, like you said before, about you know, working to term time and how that was quite restrictive, and how, you know, that sort of freedom to perhaps go to your own children's shows and concerts and sports days and everything. How does it work then? How do you feel with your kind of work-life balance and having young children? How does that all work compared to teaching and that sort of solid routine?
Yeah, I mean, I just love it. So typically for our franchise, and our franchisees can take this on either as a part-time thing or build it up as a big business. It's totally up to you. So we have a couple of franchisees that have got an area and they have taken on staff as well, and they've got like a really big business. And we've got other franchisees that just want to do 3 days a week or something, and they do their sessions on that days, and that's it. Now, care homes are not ready for sessions, or community groups are not ready for sessions before the absolute earliest one I've ever done is 10 o'clock. Generally, care homes don't want us in before 11. So that whole morning rush is just completely taken off you, because I can do the school run every day, get the kids ready, get them dropped off wherever they're going to be, get home, have a cup of tea, plan my day within working hours, which was a revelation, you know, and then head out and get to the session and do it. So that morning is lovely. I think it's just completely alien compared to teaching when you're out the door at 7 and whatever. So my mornings are actually really nice, which is great. We then tend to do, a lot of the care homes want a session at sort of 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now I push them to have an earlier one at 1:30. So there's a balance to be had. It depends what works around your situation. When my kids were little and in nursery, and you pay for like long days for nursery, don't you? Yeah. So I used to do 3 or even 4 sessions in a day. I'd do 1 in the morning and then at least 2 in the afternoon, maybe 1 at 1:30, 1 at 3. so that I'd kind of fill that long day. And I'm still doing a little bit of that now, where my eldest is at school and he goes to after school club on the one day, because I'm paying for nursery for my youngest till 5 anyway. So I do that. I think when they're both at school in 2 years' time, I'll sort of shift my day and I'll just do a morning and an early afternoon, and then manage pickup and do across more days. So it really can work around that. You know, our franchisees with young children do a real mix of, some of them just do sessions within school hours and they're there for drop off and pick up every day, and that's fine. Others sort of do more over fewer days. And as far as school holiday goes, you know, it's your business. It's up to you when you want to work. So this is the first year I've kind of had the school holiday juggle. And we've done a bit of both. I've taken some Easter. I just took 2 weeks where I didn't book any sessions. The half terms, I booked a lighter week and picked my care homes quite carefully. And actually, I took my 6-year-old with me to do the sessions with me. Oh. And he loved it. He's got a little uniform, and the residents loved it. The care homes loved it. Like, he was an asset. It was not a hindrance. They're all saying, "Oh, can we make sure we've got a session in summer when he's off?" Oh, so that was great, and he enjoyed it. I wouldn't make him go if he didn't. So there's that option, or you just don't do the sessions. I mean, one of the big things I think that is so different from teaching is that I used to feel like I really just lived my life term to term. Like, I counted down to half term, and you're kind of crawling your way to those holidays, and you need those holidays. And I was thinking this morning, I'm sort of between 2 camping trips today. We've been camping for the last few days. We had last night at home, and then we're going off again tonight for a few days. And this is the first sort of week off I've had since Easter. But I don't feel like, if that had been school, I'd have been broken. But I just don't, you've not got that relentlessness. So you just don't need those big breaks. Like, I know when I left teaching, I thought, God, I'm going to really miss having 13 weeks a year. Like, how will I manage? And I just think you just don't need it in the same way that you need, because I live my life every week. I'm not waiting. I don't only live in half term. Like, the balance is just a lot easier. And as a franchisee for us, that all that planning and prep's done, really. So it's a really short amount of time to prep the sessions and go. We look after all the social media stuff centrally, so you don't have any of that to worry about. All our franchisees have to do is take the marketing materials that we provide them with, and they go out and see the care homes and introduce themselves and get their bookings in. They'll send an email to confirm their booking. They'll go and do the session, and then they'll send the care home an invoice for the session, and they keep track of what's been paid. And that is it. It's not an overcomplicated business. And actually, as a model for us, I really like it. I mean, as a musician, I looked at, once I discovered what a franchise was, I looked at some of the kind of early years music models. And I think I was sort of ready to try something different. And it was my choice to step away from children into adults. But I like the fact that we're going into existing settings. So we're not booking halls or community centres and paying to hire anywhere and then hoping enough people turn up. All of our sessions are a flat fee by a group that already exists at a venue that is already paid for. So we literally go in and we know exactly what we're getting for that session. There's no uncertainty around that. So it's a really neat business model in that respect. And in terms of managing your finances as a small business owner. That's really helpful, because you know exactly what you're getting each week when you've got your bookings in. It's not really very in that sense.
That's great, isn't it? It relieves a lot of pressure, I think, because lots of other businesses, there's so many different sort of revenue streams and upsells and all sorts, but yours is very straightforward. You go to that session and you get paid for that session.
Yeah. And one of the things, when I was looking at leaving teaching, I really resented having to take a pay cut. I just didn't want to. And I'd applied for a few other jobs that were going to be a big pay cut, because as soon as I'd kind of gone part-time, that was a pay cut anyway. And then, when I left teaching, I was a head of faculty, so I had a big TLR and an SEM point. And I just didn't want to be working like long hours for less. And I did take a pay cut initially, but I work so much less. I'm paid much better for my time. Now, like my sessions, the hourly rate, like I looked at supply when I first started, and our day rate is more than I would have got on supply, but I don't start till 10 and I finished at 3 if I want to be. Like, so yeah, I think it's just a lot more flexible. It's one of the more certain, but I mean, you know, you have to go out and you've got to do the legwork and get the bookings in. But you're never going to be worrying no one will turn up to a class and then you will make any money or you'll lose it on the whole. That's just not our business structure. You know, and we've got a lovely head office team, you know, here to support. So you get all your initial training and do a couple of days, a day up here with me, and then I come into your area and get you going down there. All your marketing stuff is skipping. One of the things I think is so good about a franchise, and as a teacher that left having never run a business before, you just skip all that trial and error stage. You know, we've got a marketing team that have put together all these great materials that you can then take out, and you just have to kind of do the spiel and hand them out, and the bookings will come in, and you know, all the social media is managed for you, so you get to just focus on the bit you like, which again was something that was so annoying in teaching. I love the teaching, but there's all this background noise of other stuff that is taking your time, whereas this, really, all that other stuff we're looking after for you. That's what the commission is for. You know, and people sort of, with franchise, you think, oh yeah, I've got to pay to start and then I've got to pay commission ongoing. But our setup fee is really low. It literally like covers the costs basically to get all your equipment and your training and go. And you'd spend that setting up a business anyway. Like if you really thought about how much time it would take you and how much time to upskill yourself enough to create a website and all your marketing materials and all, you know, there's cost to that. So that's all done for you, and it's good to go, and you've skipped all that trial and error stage. And then ongoing, we ask for a 10% commission. So whatever our franchisees deliver the invoice, 10% comes back. Now 30% of that is used for national marketing, so that's benefiting them anyway. And the rest is just keeping all the session plans and everything ticking over for them, looking after the social media and the website and all of those things, so you don't have to. And as a teacher, if I could have just paid like 10% out to not have to do any of the other stuff, if I could just turn up in a classroom and just teach, like it's great. So yeah, it's a nice model, and as a teacher going to it as a franchisee, I loved it, and now I feel quite privileged actually to be the franchisor and to be able to offer that to other people. I mean, setting up a business is no picnic, and you know, I wouldn't want anyone to go into it, you know, if anyone tells you it's easy, then they're lying. You know, because you've got to set it up, and you're setting up it despite having like a brand behind you. You're setting up a new business in a new area, and that does take time, so you need to be kitted out for, you know, however long it's going to take till you're earning as much as you want to be, because it's not going to happen overnight, but you will definitely get there.
So you could, I suppose, supply teach whilst you're setting up your musical moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I plan to do that. I'd registered with a supply agency when I first started, and I thought I'll do 2 days of supply, and initially just a day to get sessions in. When that's full, I'll add another day. And actually, I didn't need it in the end. I didn't do any. By the time they'd kind of got my DBS and stuff through from the supply agency, I was like, well, I've got stuff in now, so I didn't need it. But that is an option, absolutely.
And what about those franchisees who are super ambitious? What does that model look for them? Like, how can they really grow and take on more staff? Like, how does that work?
So initially you'd get an area that is big enough for you to work full-time yourself and potentially take on some staff if you wanted to. So I have 2 freelance members of staff, one of whom is also a part-time music teacher. So you maybe don't even need to fully leave teaching. You could go part-time and do this a couple of days a week alongside while you make that leap. So you have a big enough patch already that there's enough scope of work that you could build it and take on some staff. So like this summer, my 2 staff, one of them's a teacher, so she's not doing sessions, which is fine. But my other freelancer, she's not a teacher, but she does a lot of work in schools as a musician, and all of that sort of stops over the summer. So she's picking up all the sessions that I can't do and whatever. So you can take on staff, and then they go out and do sessions, and you're obviously getting an income from them delivering sessions, which is lovely. I have my Mondays at home, and I know there's 4 or 5 sessions going on elsewhere in York, and I'm just having Monday with my little boy, and I'm still learning something, which is a really nice feeling. But yeah, you can grow your area. You can also then expand your area and take on staff. You know, you don't have to just be in your area. If you're going to have staff delivering sessions, then you can grow your area and take on more staff up there and build that. So you know, it kind of depends on where we've got other franchisees, but yeah, you can absolutely grow and build it into a business, more than just for you, if that's what you want to do.
The flexibility in that to either keep it as like a little hobby, extra income type thing, or to really earn decent money and manage a bigger business. It's all there, everything from
it is. So one of our newer franchisees started last year. She was a primary school teacher, but also a, you know, very competent guitarist, and she just messaged me last week. So she's been going just under a year, and it had taken, I think she'd earned more than her investment back within sort of 5 months, but within the year she was now earning more than she had been teaching, and she was like, but I don't feel like I'm working because she's just enjoying the sessions so much. She drops the kids off at school every day, which she couldn't do before. She does her sessions, which she enjoys, and that's kind of it. And she has matched, she's just broken past what her take-home pay was as a teacher. So it does take time. There's no overnight, like, you're not going to immediately have a business, but if you're set up and prepared for that length of time, you absolutely can match or beat your salary. So now her thing is like, well, what next? Like, do I look to take on staff? And that's just with her doing her sessions on 3 days a week. So does she take on staff? It's up to her. She doesn't have to. She might want to. But yeah, that's up to her. So
that's lovely. That's a really nice story to hear. And so if we've got, you know, lots of teachers out there who are looking to, you know, to be a bit more ambitious, say they want to take on a Musical Moments franchise, what's the best way that they go about it? And how long does it take from having those initial chats to sort of being out there and making money? What's the sort of time?
Yeah, it depends. So some of our franchisees, I'm thinking about teachers now. We had one who signed up at Christmas and then started in the September, so last year. So she knew she wanted to do it, but she wanted to see her school year out. But she was worried someone might take her area. So she signed up and put a deposit down on her patch. And I said, that's totally fine. We'll just wait till the summer holidays and then you can start then. So hers was quite long, but she wanted to see out her class. Primary again, wanted to see her class through the year. So happy to support that. Another one actually phoned me at the end, I think must have been the end of June. And I was like, right, I'm leaving teaching at the end of July and I haven't got anything to go to in September. I would love to do this. And we kind of went through all the chats and she actually joined the lady that had signed up at Christmas on the training in August. So we can work it through. You need at least a month, maybe 6 weeks, I would say minimum, to kind of just make sure that both sides are happy and we've got all the paperwork right and all of that. But just some things maybe to look at, you know, as a teacher looking at franchising for the first time. There's a great website called EWIF, EWIF, is Empowering Women in Franchising, but they will support men as well. But it's a charity that's set up to really support people in building businesses and finding out more information, and they would pair you up. I'm an ambassador for them, but they would pair you up with someone that you could just have a chat with to ask questions. And when you go, I don't understand what this is, they're a great place to go for information and impartial information.
That's great.
We're also accredited by the BFA, which is the British Franchise Association. So if you see that badge, I mean, it's expensive to join, so don't dismiss a franchise if they don't have that. Because it you know, as we've only got it as we've gone past 10 franchisees, because it just wouldn't have been affordable before then. But they also don't just give them out. Like, they have been through every document and every process that we do with a fine-tooth comb. So if you see that British Franchise Association badge, like, you know that they're ethical and they're not going to just sell you a dream and take your money and leave you nothing. And that, you know, another thing I would watch out for is just a franchisor should be willing for you to speak to other franchisees. So I always offer any prospective franchisees before they sign a contract, like, if you want to speak to one of our other franchisees about their experience and their journey, like, but I'll put you in touch, and that's it. Because, you know, it's my job as a franchisor to sit here and and say it's amazing and you can do all this. So it's good to kind of speak to other people on the team, and I'd be worried if somebody wasn't willing to let you do that. But yeah, franchising is a really lovely network. It's really supportive. I've found it a very welcoming kind of world, and I didn't really know what a franchise was. I mean, a franchise, Star Wars is a franchise, McDonald's. I didn't really know, but for us, it's such a nice model. Like, I could, if we didn't franchise Musical Moments, I would sit in an office, or somebody would sit in an office and be booking sessions in care homes across the country, and ultimately the care homes would be stuck dealing with this middle person in an office, and our musicians would be getting paid less per hour. Yeah. Whereas because it's the franchise, the musicians are absolutely in control of their diary. They can say, oh, I've got Harry's nativity on Thursday that week, so I'm not going to book any sessions, and they don't have to ask anyone for that. They just know that's in their diary, so they have complete control of when they're booking in. They're speaking to the people they're going to see directly, they're getting paid directly. I just think it's so much nicer. As a franchisee, I thought it was better than it would have been if I'd been employed. So yeah, I like it.
It's a great model, I think, and I love this idea about going in and really bringing joy to people who need it, and their family members, and that connection is kind of one of the reasons we go into teaching in the first place, isn't it? To inspire and to work within the community, and you're just taking that model and just doing it in a slightly different way. So I do honestly, like, it does fill me with joy when I see your photos and the faces light up, and
it is so nice. And I think, sorry, we were meant to be talking more about transitioning from kids to adults, and I don't feel like I've really spoken about that very much. But I think you just, like in teaching, you have to take every individual as an individual. That's probably the golden rule for moving into adults. And particularly with dementia, take them as you find them in that moment. Just because they didn't want to join in last week doesn't mean they won't want to join in this week. And just, it's just so much fun. Working with adults is great. I actually had not done that much with older adults when I first started this. I'd done a lot of work in special ed. And we are kind of expanding. We're doing more work with younger adults with disabilities because the sessions translate really well. And that's kind of my background. And also because we've got so many teachers, it would be criminal not to. We're offering like intergenerational sessions now. So the same model, but the care home, if they have a local school or a local nursery or something that they want to invite to join in an activity, we've got some session plans that will enable them to interact really nicely together. And the care home doesn't have to do anything, and the school doesn't have to do anything other than turn up. But it's really nice. So I've got one of our sort of local schools to a session I do. It's they've got like an additional needs sort of section supported group, and they bring those students in as like an enrichment activity for them, and it's great. But older adults are just so much fun. They've got no filter, and I love that. And people talk about, I was a secondary school teacher, and I mean, we're going back 10 years now, but it's all about the banter and bam with the kids. But I mean, you need to just sit and chat to an 85-year-old because they will tell you some stories. And it's great. And I really enjoy it. I just find them so fun. They make me laugh, they make me smile. You get all that back, and if you can sort of brighten their day, they generally are so appreciative of you coming in and kind of doing something for them and with them. And it's just really fun. They'll crack you up. There's never a dull moment on a dementia unit, that's for sure. And like I said, a lot of the time that filter's gone, so it definitely keeps you on your toes. 90% of the time our sessions are just lovely, and everyone's enjoying it and lovely. But you put the wrong song on for somebody not in the mood, and they'll tell you, turn this rubbish off. And
my word,
it's great. It keeps you on your toes. It's really
it sounds absolutely fantastic. And it's been a real pleasure to hear about your journey from teaching and how this business is growing as well, based on your experiences of being a nature of being a mum, of working with children with particular needs, you know, you can see how it's organically just sort of growing and changing and becoming a bigger thing, which is great, because if you can bring more musical moments to more people, and delight and that joy and that experience that they're getting from that is so positive. So
and it's lovely to be able to share this. You know, the franchise model really allows us to take what we know, what we've got works. Like, we've done the trial and error stage of that, so we know what we've got now is really successful, and it honestly feels like quite a privilege to be able to just share that with other people that want to set that up and say, well, look, here, this is how we do it. You know, here it is, go and do it, and have this too. It's lovely.
Well, I will definitely put all the details of how to get in contact with Maggie in the comment section. So just click on that. You can arrange a chat, can't you? Or you've got some videos on YouTube as well, have you?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, there's a page about joining the franchise. You can fill in a really short form and we'll send you some extra information. There's some videos to watch with our current franchisees chatting about their experience. There's some blogs with our franchisees chatting about, there's one particularly about going from teacher to franchisee. So there's loads of information on the website, but the process really is fill in that form. I'll send you some information and then just get back in touch, and we'll just have a video call like this and chat it through. And if it's not for you, that's fine. And if it is, then hopefully it's the start of something really nice.
Oh, wonderful. Maggie, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.